Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something truly fascinating, the bilingual enigma. We'll be unraveling exactly how we learn languages by looking at the totally groundbreaking theories of researcher Jim Cummins. So, whether you're a teacher, a parent raising a bilingual kid, or honestly, just someone curious about how the human brain juggles two languages at once, you're absolutely in the right place. Okay, let's just kick things off by tackling a massive misconception head-on. For years, there's been this fierce debate. Does a child's first language somehow compete with learning a second one? Like, if a kid is speaking their native language at home, is that actually holding them back from learning English? To get to the bottom of this, we have to look at a puzzle that absolutely baffled educators, especially back in the late 1970s. Teachers were constantly saying some variation of this exact phrase. They are fluent on the playground, but struggling in the classroom. And you can see why it was so confusing, right? Why would migrant and minority children sound like perfect native speakers when they're just, playing outside, but then suddenly hit a massive brick wall when it comes to a written test? It was a paradox that left the whole educational system completely stumped. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the bilingual learning enigma, look at social versus academic language, unpack the dual iceberg theory, define the bilingual threshold, explore some critiques in power dynamics, and finally wrap up with teaching the bilingual brain. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the bilingual learning enigma, and solving that playground versus classroom mystery. Moving right along to Section 2, social versus academic language, breaking down BICS and CALP. To solve that early enigma, Jim Cummins had a massive breakthrough in 1979. He realized we actually need to split our concept of language into two completely different buckets. First up, we have BICS. That stands for Basic Interpersonal Communicative Skills. Think of this as your context-heavy, everyday social language. It's the playground chatter, talking on the phone, casual face-to-face stuff. Then, on the other hand, you have CALP, Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. This is the highly abstract, decontextualized language you absolutely need if you're going to read a dense history textbook, or structure a complex essay, or pass a difficult science test. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The timelines for these two are wildly different. BICS, it develops super fast. We're talking just 6 months to maybe 2 years for a child to master it. But CALP, that deep academic fluency, takes an average of 5 to 7 years. Actually, let's just pause on that. 5 to 7 years. This stark difference perfectly explains our original paradox. A kid might chat flawlessly after just 1 year, totally masking the reality that their true academic fluency is going to take another half-decade to catch up to grade-level norms. This really highlights how different language tasks put completely different demands on the brain. A casual playground chat is super context-heavy, but cognitively, it's pretty easy. You've got hand gestures, facial expressions, and immediate feedback right there to help you out. But academic tasks, say writing an essay from scratch without any pictures or visual aids, well, that strips away all that supportive context and cranks the cognitive demand up to 11. It is literally a whole different league of mental gymnastics. Let's dive into Section 3, the dual iceberg theory and the interdependence hypothesis. We're about to venture into the brain to flip a huge common sense notion completely upside down. For the longest time, the outdated view was something called separate underlying proficiency. People basically pictured the brain as having two completely separate, isolated balloons, one for your first language, one for your second. And the fear was, if you fill one balloon, you're deflating the other. But Cummins came along with the common underlying proficiency model. Think of it as a one-balloon theory. Blowing air into the first language channel or the second language channel inflates the exact same cognitive balloon. They're completely interconnected. Learning one language absolutely does not drain the resources of the other. He visualized this profound connection through what's now famous as the dual iceberg metaphor. Sure, if you look above the water, the surface features of two languages look totally different, right? The pronunciation, the grammar, the vocabulary. But underneath the surface, they share this massive, interdependent base of common proficiency. It is quite literally the exact same block of ice supporting both peaks. And because of this shared foundation, skills transfer across languages so effortlessly. There are 5 main types of this transfer: conceptual, metacognitive, pragmatic, linguistic, and phonological. Think about it like this. If you deeply understand the concept of photosynthesis in Spanish, well, you already understand it in English. You don't have to relearn the actual science, you just learn the new surface labels. Same with phonological rules. Once you realize that letters make sounds and combine into words in your first language, your brain just instantly applies that fundamental rule to the second one. Okay, moving on to Section 4, the bilingual threshold and levels of linguistic competence. So this begs the question, does being bilingual actually make you smarter? Well, to unlock those cognitive benefits, we have to look at the difference between additive and subtractive bilingualism. Additive means you're adding a second language while actively keeping up your first. Subtractive means you're essentially replacing your native language with a brand new one. The science is incredibly clear here. We want additive bilingualism. We have to ensure a child's mother tongue isn't just erased in the rush to learn a new language. To actually get those amazing cognitive perks, things like better problem-solving skills and mental flexibility, kids have to cross a specific threshold. They need a solid foundation of balanced, age-appropriate proficiency in both languages. On the flip side, if a school system effectively wipes out a student's first language but also fails to properly teach them the second one, well, they end up with low proficiency in both, and that can actually lead to cognitive disadvantages and major academic struggles across the board. Section 5. Critiques and Power Dynamics. Basically the yes-but of second language acquisition. Look, no major theory gets a free pass, and Cummins frameworks have definitely faced intense academic scrutiny over the years. Some scholars argue that CALP is really just a fancy term for test wiseness, basically just knowing how to play the game of standardized testing. Others have deeper worries. They argue it promotes a deficit theory, meaning it unfairly blames the student's lack of academic language for their struggles instead of pointing the finger where it belongs, at systemic, marginalizing teaching methods. But here's the brilliant part. Cummins actually completely agrees with those systemic critiques. He draws a very sharp line between coercive power relations, where minority identities are historically suppressed in the classroom, and collaborative power relations. He argues that true academic success isn't just about teaching vocabulary words. It requires actively dismantling those coercive systems, empowering minority students, and truly validating their identities within the school environment. Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 6, Teaching the Bilingual Brain and Practical Applications. So, how do educators actually put this cognitive science to work in a real classroom today? Number 1, never ever fear the native language. Treat it like a massive database of knowledge the student already has. Number 2, actively point out cognates. Show students how complex English words share direct Latin roots with, say, Spanish. It makes academic vocabulary feel familiar instead of totally alien. Number 3, co-create identity texts. Let students use their diverse cultural backgrounds to write and create, validating their whole selves. And lastly, embrace educators who share the student's mother tongue. They are absolutely vital for building that crucial first bridge between languages. All of this brings to mind a fantastic quote from a 1998 interview with Cummins. He said, "We've got to make children vibrantly bilingual. If we do it properly, both languages will reinforce each other." I mean, that perfectly sums up the entire goal of what we've been talking about today. We want vibrant, additive bilingualism, where a student's two languages are acting as powerful allies in the brain, not enemies fighting for limited space. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative question to chew on. Think about this. Are our current educational systems genuinely designed to build upon a student's native language, or are they subtly structured to just quietly erase it? It's a massive challenge to how we view language, identity, and power today. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, keep asking those big questions.